Welcome back to Learn with Chris. I'm Chris. Today I'm going to talk about the Jötnar, or the Þursar, the giants in Norse mythology. There's a couple of ideas I have here that I don't think giant is the right word to use for them, because giant has an implication of being monstrous and not on an equal kind of level to the gods. So I believe that it was around in the mid-19th century. There was an author called George Webb Dasent, and he wrote a book, Popular Tales from Norse Mythology. And it's kind of like a translation of the Prose Edda, but he was putting just stories. And I think that might be one of the first times when the translation of like Jotun or Jötnar or Þurs or Þursar, he started using the word giant for those creatures, right? And that probably caught on and continued. So over the last approximately almost 200 years, that's the common word that we use, and we see it in a lot of translations, the word giant for the Jötnar. And it's extremely common, of course, to say that and to think that, but I want to kind of go through some ideas that I think that the Jötnar were almost like on a par with the Æsir and the Vanir, with the gods, and they did a lot of interactions with each other. There's a lot of intermarrying with each other. There's a lot of interbreeding with each other. So if the gods and the giants were like so different from each other, gods and monsters, they wouldn't have been doing that, right? They wouldn't have been like some of the giants were considered very, very beautiful, or some of the Jötnar, I should say. See, even I am saying the word giant, even though I don't want to. It's just like an instinct to say giant, right? But I should be saying Jötnar or Þursar. So, for example, Freya's brother, he marries. Not only does he marry a giantess, but he actually goes through the process of wooing her and getting her hand in marriage because she was so beautiful, right? So it's, her name was Jötnar, I think. So she wasn't some monstrous giant. She was beautiful, a beautiful Jotun that he wanted to marry. His father was also married to a Jotun woman, Skavi, right? It was very common. And interbreeding, I mean, Thor's mother was Jorth, a Jotun woman. Thor himself he was married to Siv, who was, I think, a Vanir goddess, maybe Æsir, I'm not sure. But he also had children with Jotun women as well. Odin had children with the Jotun women. A lot of interbreeding between them. And again, that would be quite strange if they were monstrous giants. Now, I'm not denying at all that the Æsir and the Jötnar were enemies, right? And they were conflicting with each other. Obviously, that's true, because everything accumulates in Ragnarok and the destruction of the world, that fight, that battle between them, right? So there's no doubt there that they end up basically killing each other at the end. But how we get there is important to look at. Okay, so I'm going to go through a lot of the Prose Edda, particularly Gylfaginning, describing the creation myth, as well as ending with Ragnarok. But before I do that, I want to put up some words with the meanings of them, just to kind of set the background of my idea here. So the first word is os, or Aesir. Those are the gods, right? So os singular, Aesir plural, it means divine figure or god, right? And they represent structure, order, creation. That's what they do. They of course they have their portfolios of domains, and they, the god of this, god of that, the god of this, the god of that. They're structured like that. And of course, Odin and his brothers created Midgard from the body of Ymir, which we'll look at later when I start reading through Gylfaginning. Now, this is going to be opposed by the Jötn, or the Jötnar for plural. And the word Jötn, which is our giants that we're talking about, although I don't think they're giants, it means devouring or consuming. That's what the word means in Old Norse. So the thing that devours. What does that sound like? It sounds like chaos to me. It sounds like destruction to me, right? So that is the opposite of the Aesir, right? This is why they're in conflict. This is why they destroy each other, right? So it's chaos and order against each other, right? And particularly in Gylfaginning, there's another word for them, and it's Þurs or Þursar. And so it's another word for Jötnar or Jötn, and it means brute strength or power. But again, it's talking about the same beings, right? The same giants, right? So two other words to look at is Ymir, who is the first being in creation, and his name means noise or roar, right? The sound out of the void, right? And the void is Gningagap, and that means yawning void or yawning gap, right? That is the, think like the Big Bang, right? That's at the beginning when there was nothing. There was just a yawning void, and then things come together with the realm of the hot realm and the cold, which I'll talk about right now, creating the first being, Ymir. Now, I'm probably guessing that when in the mid-19th century, when translators and writers they started translating the word Jötnar or Þursar as giant. Probably that comes from the concept, of course, that Ymir, the first Jötn, was gigantic, right? His body was so big that the sons of Burr or Buri, anyway, Odin, Vili, and Ve, they killed him and used his body to make the world, right? So he was gigantic, right? So perhaps that's the connection why the Jötnar got translated to mean giant, just from that fact alone. But as I'm going to look at as we go through this, I don't think that's what they are. I think they're elemental chaos. I think they're destruction, and they're opposed to the gods for that reason, right? Okay, so I'm going to start reading from Gylfaginning chapter 5. Gningagap, which faced toward the northern quarter, became filled with heaviness and masses of ice and rime, and from within drizzling rain and gusts. But the southern part of the yawning gap was lighted by those sparks and glowing masses from flew out of Muspelheim. Muspelheim being the hot kind of realm. Just as cold arose out of Niflheim and all terrible things, so also all that looked out towards Muspelheim became hot and glowing. But Gnungagap was as mild as windless air, and when the breath of heat met the rime, so that it melted and dripped, life was quickened from the yeast drops by the power of that which sent the heat, and became a man's form, and that man is named Ymir. But the Þrymskviða called him Argelmir, and thence came the races of the frost giants, the rime giants, the Þursar. So in Norse, here my translation says rime giants, frost giants, but the Old Norse is Þrymskviða, Thrym meaning frost, Þursar being, again, the brute strength, another name for the Jötnar. And so Ymir being that first giant, he has another name, and the name, the actual Jötnar themselves, they didn't call him Ymir, they called him Argelmir. And Argelmir, what that translates to, means mud roar, or sound out of the mud, right? So again, this is kind of like a linking with the primal first substances out of the mud, right? Creation out of the mud, something like that, right? So it's quite an interesting name, So let me continue reading here. By no means do we acknowledge him as a god. He was evil in all his kindred. We call them rime giants, or Þrymskviða. Now it is said that when he slept, a sweat came upon him, and there grew under his left hand a man and a woman, and out of his feet begat a son with the other. And thus the races are come. These are the rime giants. The old rime giant, him we call Ymir. So kind of like because he was the only living thing, he kind of had sex with himself and started to create the race of the Jötnar. So we move on to Gylfaginning chapter 6. Then said Gangleri, where dwelt Ymir, or wherein did he find sustenance? Hor answered, straightway after the ream dripped, there sprang from it the cow called Othumla. 4 streams of milk ran from her udders, and she nourished Ymir. And then asked Gangleri, wherein was the cow nourished? And Hor made answer, she licked the ice blocks, which were salty, and the first day that she licked the blocks, there came forth from the blocks in the evening a man's hair, the second day a man's head, the third a whole man was there. His name is Buri. He was fair of feature, great and mighty. He begat a son called Bor, who wedded the woman named Bestla, daughter of Bolthorn the giant. And they had 3 sons. One was Odin, the second Vili, and the third Ve. And this is my belief that he, Odin, and his brothers must be the ruler of heaven and earth. We hold that he must be so called. And so is that man called, whom we know to be the mightiest and most worthy of honor. And ye do well to let him be so called. So let me just talk about this a little bit. So the first Jötnar, Ymir, basically he starts rubbing his arms and his legs together and start producing more Jötnar, right? So he was the progenitor of the entire race. But there was a second creature. It doesn't say exactly where it came from, but it's like the cosmic cow, Othumla. And her milk was feeding Ymir. And she started licking at ice blocks, which revealed effectively the first Oss, the first god, right? His name was Buri. Don't know exactly how he got a child, but his son was called Bor. And of course, Odin is the son of Bor, right? We can call him Borson. Odin Borson. So the sons of Bor, which we hear in other stories, right? So Odin, Veli, and Ve. And also notice that Bor wedded a woman called Bestla, who was a Jötnar, right? So Odin is half Jötnar, right? Again, really common, really common. All, not all, but yeah, maybe all, I don't know. But the gods marrying with the with the Jötnar, interbreeding with them, extremely common. I mean, Thor, his mother was a Jötnar, and his father, Odin, was half Jötnar. So Thor is actually more Jötnar than he is Aesir, right? And he hates him singularly, Thor. If you want to pick any particular Aesir god who absolutely can't stand the Jötnar and fights them and murders them and kills them, it's Thor. He is that singular person, right? But he is more Jötnar, at least DNA, than he is Aesir, which is interesting. So the gods created from an ice block licked by the cosmic cow, revealing the first Aesir. His name was Buri, and then his son Bor, and then Odin came after that. So that means, actually no, that doesn't mean that. No, okay, well, I guess Odin is the great-grandchild of Ymir, but not from his father, but from his mother Bestla, because she was a Jötnar. Okay, I was going to say that he's not related to Ymir, but he is, because his mother was a Jötnar. So that makes sense. Okay, so let me continue reading. This is Gylfaginning, chapter 7. Then said Gangleri, what covenant was between them, or which was the stronger? And Hor answered, the sons of Bor slew Ymir the giant. Lo, and when he fell, there gushed forth so much blood out of his wounds that with it they all drowned. They drowned all the race of the Rime giants, save that one whom giants called Bergelmir, escaped with his household. He went upon his ship and with his wife with him, and they were safe. And from them are come the race of the Rime giants, as it is said here. And then it actually quotes Vafthrudnismal, stanza 29. So the sons of Bor, Odin, Vili, and Ve, kill Ymir, their grandfather, or half-grandfather, or whatever. And from the blood gushing out of this gigantic Jötun, the blood drowns the race, the race of the Jötnar, save one, right? One, Bilgermir, and his wife survive. I think they put themselves into like a box or a chest or something, and it's not a ship, but they put themselves into something so that they didn't drown. Now, obviously, this is very, very reminiscent of Noah and the flood from Christian myth. Very, very reminiscent of that. And I don't have it because Prose Edda was written by Snorri Sturluson in the 1200s. He was a Christian. I think he was a priest, actually. I don't know if he was a chieftain in Iceland or he was actually a priest in Iceland, or maybe he was both. But so with that fact, it's extremely difficult to kind of separate out Christian influence into these stories. So I mean, it would be kind of weird if if the Norse had independently their own kind of flood story, and then the Christians also had their flood story, and then one person survived, just like Noah and his family survived. So that'd be pretty strong coincidence. So I don't think it is a coincidence. I think that Snorri was actually, his own Christian influence he's putting into Gylfaginning. That makes a lot of sense. It's problematic though, because it makes it really hard if you want to, and I personally do, want to kind of understand, well, like what did they believe? What were their, what was the religion pre-Christian influence? And it's really, really hard to suss that out. Very, very difficult. Okay, let's continue with Gylfaginning 8. what was done then by Bor's sons, if thou believe that they be gods? Hor replied, in this matter there is little to be said. They took Ymir and bore him into the middle of the yawning void, Gunungagap, and made of him the earth, Midgard. Of his blood the sea and the waters, the land was made of his flesh, and the crags of his bones, gravel and stones they fashioned from his teeth and his grinders, and from these bones that were broken. Of the blood which ran and welled forth freely out of his wounds, they made the sea, when they had formed and made firm the earth together, and laid the sea in a ring round about her, and made it well seem a hard thing that most men to cross over it. Right. So the kind of idea for the Norse, of course, was that Midgard was a land and it was surrounded by an ocean, right? So it's kind of their idea of the kind of geography of the earth, right? And of course, the Midgard serpent, Jormungandr, would have, of course, circled the entire earth as well, right? Let me see here. They took his skull and made of it the heavens, and set it over the earth with 4 corners, and under each corner they set a dwarf, and the names of these are east, west, north, and south. Then they took the glowing embers and sparks that burst forth and had been cast out of Muspelheim, and set them in the midst of the yawning void, in the heaven both above and below, to illuminate heaven and earth. They assigned places to all fires. To some in heaven, some wandered free under the heavens. Nevertheless, to those also they gave a place and shaped them courses. So Odin and his brothers, they kill their grandfather Ymir, the first Jötnar, gigantic Jötnar, and they make the world out of his body, right? So, from my understanding, this is order out of chaos, right? So the Jötnar as creatures of chaos, Odin is fashioning order out of it, right? So it's order out of chaos. That's how I see this, out of his body. Now, of course, this is going to be reversed in Ragnarok, because the giants, the Jötnar, I always say giants, I don't mean to, but I always do. So the Jötnar, of course, are out to erase creation, right? To return chaos, to use chaos to destroy order. It's the opposite, right? Now, we could look at that as pure revenge, right? So if we go back a little bit, when Odin and his brothers killed Ymir, the blood gushing out of the body of Ymir nearly drowned the entire race of the Jötnar. So it's kind of like was it a genocide? Was it on purpose? Did Odin and his brothers intend for that to happen? Were they trying to kill the Jötnar by this action of gushing out all of the blood of Ymir? Probably the Jötnar believed that, right? They probably would believe that it was an act of genocide or attempted genocide. And they might be looking for revenge. What do we say? Revenge is a dish best served cold. So, many eons later, they engineer Ragnarok to happen, and we'll get to that later as I continue. And that's the undoing of creation, right? That is chaos over order, right? So by Odin making Midgard from the body of Ymir, that's order over chaos, and then it gets reversed. Okay, so I want to say, I'm going to transition here to the Poetic Edda, and I'm going to talk about, it's a hard word to say, this poem, Þrymskviða. It's the one where Thor loses his hammer and he has to get it back. Now, I want to talk about this for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that, just again, okay, let me read through it, and then my reasons for wanting to talk about it will become evident. Okay, so we're going to start on stanza 7, the lay of Thrym being Jötnar. So stanza 7, this is Thrym talking to Loki. Okay, so set the background. Thor wakes up one day, Mjolnir, his hammer, is gone. So somebody took it, somebody stole it. Loki, for maybe because he's, has a certain characteristics, or he has an affinity towards the Jötnar, he helps him out. He helps out Thor, and he goes to Jotunheim, the land of the Jotun, to talk and try to find out what happened to the hammer, if somebody took it. And indeed, Thrym, the king of the giants, the king of the Jötnar, actually admits that he did take the hammer. So, stanza 7. Thrym spoke to Loki. I have hidden Thor's hammer 8 miles down deep in the earth, and again shall no man bring it, if Freyja I win not to be my wife. So, yes, I took the hammer, I hid it, and no one's going to see it again unless Freyja marries me. Now, Freyja, of course, being a beautiful Vanir goddess. So, Jötnar wanting to marry a Vanir goddess. It's happened before. So, stanza 10, Loki goes back and talks with Thor. Trouble I have and tidings as well. Thrym, king of the Þursar, keeps thy hammer, and back again shall no man bring it, if Freyja he wins not to be his wife. So basically, Loki tells him, yeah, I know where the hammer is. Thrym has it, but he's not going to give it back unless Freyja marries him. So in stanza 11, they go talk to Freyja. Basically, can you help me get my hammer back by marrying the Jötnar, by marrying the giant? So it's stanza 11. Freyja the fair Freyja the fair then went they to find. Hear now the speech that first he spoke. Bind on, Freyja, the bridal veil, for we too must haste to Jotunheim. Stanza 12. Wrathful was Freyja, and fiercely she snorted, and the dwelling great of the gods was shaken, and burst with the mighty Brigsing's necklace. Most man-crazy indeed should I look to all if I journeyed with thee to Jotunheim. So, no, no way. I'm not marrying a Jötnar just to get your hammer back. So she refuses. She refuses to help Thor. I'm not entirely sure the relationship between Freyja and Thor. How friendly are they? I don't know. But she absolutely refuses to do that. She's not gonna, she's not gonna take one for the team. Now, I actually looked into the Norse about most man crazy. The word is verg yarn asta, man desirous, and superlative form, the most. So basically she's saying effectively something like, I would be a slut, or I would be a whore if I did this. Something like that, right? An equivalent to that. So, and then as the story continues, Heimdallr basically suggests, well, okay, Freyja's not going to do this. Thor, why don't you do it? Why don't you dress up yourself and pretend to be Freyja? Go to Jotunheim and get back your hammer. And that's exactly what happens in the story. But point is that when they go to the wedding feast, it's all very normal. It's got like food and meat and beer and desks, or not desks, but like, tables and everything. So in the land of the giants, they have a pretty standard Norse kind of wedding feast. Again, like, if they're giants and they're monsters, why would they have the same type of culture as the gods do, right? So it looked like any other type of normal kind of wedding, right? And of course, eventually the hammer is brought out. Stupid English. The hammer was brought out. It was brought out as in part of the wedding feast. And Thor, of course, grabs his hammer and then he kills. I think he kills like pretty much everybody in the room. But that's that story. Okay, so I want to move on now and kind of conclude this by talking about Ragnarok. Ragnarok comes from gods and fate. So it's the fate of the gods. It's often translated as the twilight of the gods or the end of the gods. This is quite a lot of Ragnarok. You're gonna find it in the Voluspa. You're gonna find it in Vafthrudnismal. But I'm just going to focus on Gylfaginning 51 to describe Ragnarok. And my point, of course, is that Ragnarok is the Jötnar, the giants, bringing chaos, doing what they are, or manifesting themselves in the way that they are, and their purpose is to destroy creation, right? To burn down Yggdrasil, destroy Midgard, destroy all the gods, and destroy everything. Now, is this for revenge, for Odin trying to genocide them at the beginning, or is it just their nature as beings of chaos, right? Maybe both. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to read from Gylfaginning 51, and this is concerning Ragnarok. What tidings are there to be told concerning Ragnarok? Never before have I heard aught said of this. Hor answered, great tidings are to be told of it, and much. The first is this, that there shall come a winter which is called Fimbulvinter, and in that time snow shall drive from all quarters, frosts shall be great then, and the winds sharp. There shall be no virtue in the sun. Those winters shall proceed 3 in succession, and no summer between. But first shall come 3 other winters, such that all over the land there shall be mighty battles. In that time brother shall slay each other for greed's sake, and none shall spare father or son in manslaughter or in incest. So it says in Voluspa. So there will be a winter, a 3-year-long winter, where, of course, resources would be very, very scarce, and just complete chaos where, father fights father and brother, and basically everybody's killing each other and murdering each other. And he's quoting directly from Voluspa here, and I'll just read this. Brothers shall strive and slaughter each other. Own sisters' children shall sin together. Ill days among men, many a whoredom. An axe age, a sword age. Shields will be cloven. A wind age, a wolf age, ere the world totters. Continuing. Then shall happen what seems great tidings. The wolf shall swallow the sun, and this shall seem to men a great harm. Then the other wolf shall seize the moon, and he shall also, and he also shall work great ruin. The stars shall vanish from the heavens. Then shall come to pass these tidings also. All the earth shall tremble so, and the crags, that trees shall be torn up from the earth, and the crags fall to ruin, and all fetters and bonds shall be broken and rent. Then shall Fenris wolf get loose, and then the sea shall gust forth upon the land, because the Midgard serpent stirs in giant wrath and advances upon the land. Then that too shall happen, that Naglfar shall be loosened, that ship which is so named. Okay, so lots of stuff to talk about here. I forget the names of the two wolves. I think it's like Hate and something else. I'll probably put it up on the screen if I remember. But the name of the two wolves, one eats the sun, one eats the moon. So there's complete darkness during this 3-year Fimbulvinter. The thing that really triggers it though is Fenrir Wolf getting loose. He breaks from his bindings and he's out. He's out. This triggers, I think, everything. So here they talk about the Midgard serpent advancing on land. So the oceans are all rising up because the Jormungandr is on the move. And then it mentions Naglfar. Naglfar is the ship built from the nails of dead men, and there was some kind of like custom, I guess, to actually clip the nails of people who've died. And I don't know if this custom like continued into like Scandinavian culture, like many, maybe potentially centuries after, or even today, I don't know. But I mean, we do it just because it looks better, right? But maybe, because the idea, of course, is that because the Jötnar are building a ship to transport their army to the field of Vigroth, I think, yeah, Vigroth, to do the battle with the gods, they need to build the ship. And the ship is built from the nails, the fingernails of dead men. So if you clip the fingernails before you die, that's less nails for them to build the ship, right? So it postpones Ragnarok longer by not giving them the material they need for making the ship, right? So it's interesting stuff. Okay, I'm still reading Gylfaginning 51. Yet in this sea flood, Naglfar shall float. Hrymr is the name of the giant who steers Naglfar. Fenris Wolf shall advance with gaping mouth, and his lower jaw shall be against the earth, but the upper against heaven. He would gape yet more if there were room for it. Fires blaze from his eyes and nostrils. The Midgard serpent shall blow venom so that he shall sprinkle all the air and water, and he is very terrible, and shall be on the side of the wolf. Of course. In this din shall the heaven be cloven, and the sons of Muspell ride thence. Surtur shall ride first, and both before him and after him burning fire. His sword is exceedingly good. From it radiance shines brighter than from the sun. And when they ride over Bifrost, so the Rainbow Bridge, then the bridge shall break, as has been foretold. The sons of Muspell shall go forth to that field which is called Vigrither. How do I say this? Vigrither, yeah. Thither shall come Fenris Wolf also, and the Midgard serpent. Then Loki and Hrymr shall come there also, and with him all the Þursar, so all the Jötnar. All the champions of hell follow Loki, and the sons of Muspell shall have a company by themselves, and it shall be very bright. The field Vigrither is 100 leagues wide each way. So that's the battlefield where Ragnarok will take place, right? So this whole paragraph here is talking about the entire army of the Jötnar and associated monsters, Fenris Wolf, Jotunheim, the champions of hell. I don't know who they are. I don't know who the champions of hell are. I'd be interested to find out. And they break Bifrost. So that's like access to Asgard, of course. Okay, so now the last part here is going to be talking about the Aesir's response, right? So The Jötnar are all gathered, they got their ship, they sail to the battlefield, and they are ready to fight. So the last paragraph of Gylfaginning chapter 51. When these tidings come to pass, then shall Heimdallr rise forth and blow mightily in the Yallar horn and awaken all the gods, and they shall hold counsel together. Then Odin shall ride to Mimir's well and take counsel of Mimir for himself and his host. Then the ash of Yggdrasil shall tremble, and nothing then shall be without fear in heaven or in earth. And then shall the Aesir put on their war weeds, and all the Einherjar, and advance to the field. Odin rides first with the golden helmet and a fair briny, I don't even know what that word is, and his spear, which is called Gungnir. He shall ride forth against Fenris Wolf, and Thor stands forward on his other side, and can be of no avail to him, because he shall have his hands full to fight against the Midgard serpent. Freyr shall contend with Surtur, and a hard encounter shall there be between them before Freyr falls. It is to be his death that he lacks that good sword of his, which he gave to Skreithnir. Yeah, I think he gave his sword to Skreithnir as like when he was wooing his Jötnar wife. I think he lost his sword. I need to check about that. But anyway, he didn't have his sword, so he lost against the fight against Surtur, and he died at Ragnarok. Then shall the dog Garmr be loosened, and it is bound before Nippa's cave. He is the greatest monster, and he shall do battle with Tyr, and each become the other's slayer. Thor shall put to death the Midgard serpent, and shall stride away 9 paces from that spot, and then he shall fall dead to the earth because of the venom which the snake has blown at him. The wolf shall swallow Odin, and that shall be his ending, but straight thereafter shall Vindar, Odin's son, stride forth and set 1 foot upon the lower half of the wolf, and on that foot he has the shoe materials for which have been gathered throughout all time. They are scraps of leather which men cut out of their shoes at toe or heel. Therefore he who desires in his heart to come to the Aesir's help should cast those scraps away. With one hand he shall seize the wolf's upper jaw and tear his gullet asunder, and that is the death of the wolf. Loki shall have battle with Heimdallr, and each be the slayer of the other. Then straightway shall Surtur cast fire over the earth and burn all the world. So that's the battle at Ragnarok. Aesir killing Jotun, god killing giant. Lots of interesting things there. So Vidar has special shoes where he's able to tear asunder the mouth of Fenris Wolf and kill him. But the scraps of leather to make the shoes come from people who, if you want to help out, discard these scraps of leather so that they can be collected and made into whatever special shoes that Vidar is wearing. I've never heard that before. That's actually very interesting. I have heard about the whole the nail thing for the Naglfar ship, that cut your nails to deny the Jötnar resources to make their ship. I have heard that, but I haven't heard about this shoe thing before. That's actually quite interesting. First time I read it. So it ends with Surtur casting fire over the world and burning it all down, and burning down Yggdrasil as well. Now, I'm not going to get into Gylfaginning 52, the next chapter, but the next chapter is about the rebirth. That's not the focus of this video, but obviously that comes that comes after. So what is my focus of this video? Who are the Jötnar? Who are the giants? I don't think they're giants. I think they're supernatural beings on par with the gods, but they're opposite to the gods in the fact that gods represent order and structure, and the Jötnar represent chaos and destruction. They were born out of chaos. You know, Ymir, the first being born out of chaos. And that's what their name means. That's what Jötn means. It means consuming or devouring, right? And that's what chaos does. It devours. So it makes complete sense to me that the Æsir and the Jötnar are mortal enemies. It makes less sense to me that they intermarry and they intermingle and they interbreed. That does make less sense to me. It makes sense to me in the fact that they're almost like equals. To like the point being that they're not monstrous giants who are just on a different level, completely like alien or unrelatable or anything like that. But intermingling and intermarrying, that makes sense for them effectively being different kind of supernatural families, I suppose. And if we want to talk about like biology, I mean, they would have to be the same species in order to mate together, right? You know, if a giant and a god are different species, they wouldn't be able to have children together, right? So the Jötnar and the Æsir and the Vanir, they all have children together. So they all, I mean, like biologically speaking, they're the same species, right? So they're on par with each other in a certain regard, right? But fundamentally having different focuses, order versus chaos. Yeah, I think that's about all I want to say about the Jötnar. Please, thank you for watching this long video. I don't know how long it is. If you disagree with any of my ideas, please comment, and I would love to have a conversation about this. Who are the giants? Are they giants? Who are the Jötnar? What do they represent? What do you think? Am I wrong? Do you agree with me? Let me know. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.